It's Nolan. Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show.
That's 100.
I'm wishing you nothing but love and light. Good days completed with better nights. I just curried the chicken, smothered the rice. You know it came with a bed with the right amount of ice. I'm enjoying my life, wife loading, fiance, new crib, furniture unloading. The ball mean. I mean, we made it through the quarantine. I just need more green like soybeans. We was packed like sardines with my pops. They wouldn't open the doors. I started picking the locks. Twin bed, used to sleep on the couch. I had to think of the box. I passed opportunities to my ops. So who gon' stop me in the grand scheme? Big stepper come through like a stampede. Too blessed, we just filled up the pantry. They say I'm old school, I say I'm antique. I'm man seek for knowledge and wisdom. Even when you protest, you acknowledge the system. Yeah, I made a plan and I followed the vision. Yeah, wishing you well in this world of attrition. What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody's doing well on this Friday evening. Now, as y'all know, this channel, for the most part, when I started doing content, was based around these types of stories: music business disputes, copyright law, music ownership, all of those types of things. And we've been talking less about these types of subjects because they don't come up as much these days, and some of them are frivolous when they do come up. But this is kind of my wheelhouse, right? Not only that, but I talked about this issue about a month ago, a little over a month ago, maybe a month and a half at this point, with Khloe Bailey and the dispute with her Trouble in Paradise album for multiple songs, in which this songwriter Forrest contributed to the songwriting, contributed to the melodies and the things that went into a few songs. However, he has not been properly compensated for the work that he put into the album and the music. Now, the problem at hand is that the music that he wrote and referenced was never meant for Khloe Bailey to begin with. He worked with a producer by the name of Bongo, who, for the most part, did the majority of the production on Khloe's Trouble in Paradise album. And I guess Bongo went into the studio and played some of what Forrest had laid down and created. And Khloe ended up liking and loving those records. So she laid them down, recreated them, and they ended up getting put out on the album. So the producer ran off with the music, right? However, when a situation like this happens and a songwriter or anybody who otherwise would have claimed ownership or would have had ownership stake in this music, they end up having to sue everybody that played a part in the release of the song. So Khloe Bailey is now being held liable. Sony Music is now being held liable. And also Beyonce's Parkwood Entertainment is being held liable for this mix-up. And it's becoming a little bit of a tizzy in the music industry, as Forrest has gotten himself affiliated and aligned with another songwriter by the name of Tiffany Red. We've talked about Tiffany Red quite a few times on my channel, and she's a very controversial but also very vigilant person when it comes to business, when it comes to the music industry. She's been here for a long time, and due to some of the hardships that she's faced in the industry, she's created an organization of her own called the 100 Percenters, which advocates for songwriters and producers, but mostly songwriters, to get their just due, to make sure that they're not being taken advantage of, make sure that they're being properly compensated, etc., as they navigate the music industry. Now, when I originally covered this subject about a month or so ago, she had interviewed the songwriter Forrest about this situation. They've been trying to privately negotiate behind the scenes. It was not going anywhere. Unfortunately, Khloe's lawyer just has not been open to the conversation, has not been open to negotiating, and has pretty much been trying to isolate Forrest. Although his name does show up in the credits, he's still not being compensated for what he did, right? So much so that they even came to terms between Khloe, I believe, and the label, but Khloe's lawyer is still not cooperating. So now it's becoming a bit of a public spectacle, okay? So now I'm going to play Tiffany Red's video about where they currently stand, and then I'm going to get into the actual lawsuit against Khloe that's been released as of today.
All right, so the last time I was on here speaking about Khloe Bailey, I discussed 3 songs that were written, co-written by a songwriter named Forrest. And since the last time I was up here, there has been a lot of back and forth. And quite honestly, I thought that this was going to work out without litigation. Like last week, it felt like we were finally about to close this out. And then that damn Jeremy Moore, he spun that block with that same energy. And it's so crazy because we got to the money we wanted. We got to the points we wanted. We got to the publishing that we wanted, that Forrest wanted for his work. And in the end, the whole thing went to shit because they only wanted to give him a contract with Bongo and not have a contract with Khloe or with Columbia or Parkwood. Now, throughout this whole process, Jeremy Moore has been really, really rude, and he hasn't been responsive. And so, here we are. It's so funny because last night there was like a whole lot of motion, and they sent us over a contract in the middle of the night that you could tell was clearly thrown together. And it just was like, you know, it shouldn't have to be all of this. It just shouldn't. So, Forrest decided to proceed with litigation. And so, here we are.
Y'all not gonna believe this shit. I read through this entire lawsuit on motherfucking mute. I'm ready to smack somebody, but let me but what we're gonna do here for the sake of this video and for the sake of salvaging this is just kind of go through the main points because I'm not reading this shit again. It's a lot to go through. But basically, here's what you need to know, okay? This is plaintiff Melvin Moore, all right, aka Forrest. He's going up against Khloe Bailey, Columbia Records, a division of Sony Music Entertainment, Beyonce's label, Parkwood Entertainment, Sony Music, ABC Corporation. There's 10 John and Jane Does in here, and they're all defendants, right? The civil action seeks damages, declaratory relief, injunctive relief for defendants' willful copyright infringement, fraudulent misrepresentations, violations of the DMCA, civil conspiracy, and deceptive business practices. This guy, Melvin Moore, aka Forrest, he's a Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, producer, recording artist. He contributed substantial original lyrics, melodies, and creative direction to several master recordings entitled Favorite, Might As Well, and Same Lingerie. These are actually some of the more popular records from Khloe's Trouble in Paradise album. Unfortunately, it seems that there's going to be trouble in paradise moving forward as litigation continues, right? These songs were commercially released by defendants and embodied on her album without his knowledge or consent. So he did not know that these songs were going to be used. He did not know that Khloe had recreated them, because the producer that he initially worked with ran off on the plug, gave them to Khloe, and signed off on his behalf. Now, some people may say, why don't he just take it up with the producer? Well, once the producer signs it off to Khloe, Columbia, Sony, Parkwood, etc., it now becomes their possession, which means that they now have to include all of them in this whole process. They're now responsible. They're now liable because they've gone out and filed copyright registration, distributed it to the world. So, yes, they are now liable, not just the producer. Okay? Specifically, defendants failed to seek permission from plaintiff to commercially exploit the works, despite actual knowledge of his substantial contributions to the works. Defendants also failed to engage in good faith negotiations with plaintiff prior to the commercial release of the works, which he attempted to do. Concerning the contractual terms plaintiff would be willing to accept to grant defendants the exclusive right to commercially exploit the works. Additionally, defendant failed to accord plaintiff proper professional writing credit for the works or compensate him for his significant contributions. As with most creatives, the lyrical contributions to the works by plaintiff were deeply personal and inspired by his lived experiences, making the unauthorized commercial exploitations of the works even more egregious. In particular, the lyrics and narratives were derived from intimate and real-life situations, reflecting his relationships, emotions, and personal struggles. I personally don't see the significance in sharing the personal situations that influence the writing. I don't think that's going to help him in a legal scope, but he's emotionally connected to these records. He did not write them with Khloe in mind, so it is a violation, right? So they say Might As Well was directly inspired by his romantic relationship at the time. He was dating a woman who had been cheated on, and he encouraged her to take back her power in the breakup. The plaintiff sought to tell the most compelling story from a woman's perspective, capturing the raw emotions and aftermath of betrayal in the work. This is a screenshot of Khloe on TikTok performing said record for over 95.7 thousand people, right? So he's like, yo, during this time of trying to reach out to Khloe, reach out to her labels, try to get these things worked out, she was on social media performing the very songs that were stripped from him for these people, right? So this is a Might As Well clip on TikTok, which is a song he wrote that she's performing, right? And from Khloe's perspective, she's like, yo, I'm going to keep promoting my album. My labels aren't doing it. They're not allowing me to go out and tour. So the best bet that I can do is do in-studio, at-home performances of the records to at least help people see it. Because she, although she contributed to the unauthorized usage of the music, she didn't do it on purpose. She was misled. She took it to the label. They moved forward. But unfortunately, she has been a bit evasive with her team about how to come to a resolution, which is why the paperwork was filed, right? So then you got this song, Same Lingerie, which Khloe has come out and stated that this is actually her favorite song from the album. And the person who wrote it is not being treated properly. Same Lingerie was inspired by another profoundly personal relationship between plaintiff and a woman who recorded the original demos for the work. The plaintiff and his partner crafted the lyrics based on her hesitations and emotional struggles following a previous relationship. The work reflected her discomfort with intimacy post-breakup and how she felt she could not wear the same lingerie she once wore for her ex, illustrating a vulnerable and deeply personal perspective of love and loss. Here's a screenshot of Khloe Bailey doing an in-studio performance of the song for Instagram. This video was viewed over 260,000 times, right? So he's saying y'all ran off with this music and kept exploiting it after being notified that there was some wrongdoing taking place, right? So they say despite plaintiff's significant emotional and creative investment in the works, the defendants misappropriated his contributions, falsely registered the works under their names, and exploited the works for commercial gain across multiple revenue-generating, commercially viewable platforms without authorization. Okay? So the defendants' knowing and willful misconduct included unauthorized public performances and distribution of the works, failure to appropriately credit or compensate plaintiff as a songwriter and contributor in connection with the works, fraudulent copyright registration of the works with the U.S. Copyright Office, continued exploitation of the works on YouTube, streaming services, social media, and other commercially viewable platforms, circumvention of copyright protections and suppression of plaintiff's claims, and disregarding DMCA takedown and cease and desist notices and legal demands for removal of the works from the stream of commerce, right? So they wanted the songs to be removed from streaming platforms, YouTube, etc., until they could get this thing worked out so then he could be properly compensated. But from a label perspective, they're not going to do that until you actually get a judgment that says that they have to, right? So what they want is actual and statutory damages, including up to $150,000 per willful infringement, injunctive relief, preventing further commercial exploitation of the works, a full forensic audit of defendants' revenue streams from the unauthorized commercial exploitation of the works. Unfortunately, if the label will let you do um, an audit, but they're going to make you pay for it. And that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. They want a disgorgement of profits and imposition of a constructive trust overall revenues derived from the works. They want an order requiring defendants to issue a public retraction and proper crediting of plaintiff pertaining to the works. And they want punitive damages of $5 million per song. And this is where, as much as I'm siding with Forrest because he has plenty of claims to show that he did this stuff, the problem is I don't think Khloe Bailey made $5 million in totality from this album for you to be requesting $5 million per song. I think you would be lucky to get $50,000 per song. You might be lucky to get $150,000 after all of this is over with, to be honest. Because Trouble in Paradise, although it was although it was critically acclaimed and loved by people that appreciate good R&B music, it was not commercially successful. And she wasn't able to tour it. Here they get into some of the history of Forrest. Once again, I don't understand the significance of putting like his bio in a lawsuit, but I'm glad that they put it here for my viewers because I want y'all to understand this is not somebody who just woke up off the side of the street and decided to go after Khloe Bailey on some random stuff. He's actually been in the industry for many years and has written and produced for artists on Khloe's level and above. So this is why they're taking it so seriously because, to my knowledge, he's never experienced this before, right? So in the second part here, it says plaintiff has written and contributed to hit records for the following Grammy-winning and or gold and platinum-selling artists, including but not limited to G-Eazy, French Montana, Usher, Ty Dolla $ign, Chris Brown, 2 Chainz featuring Ariana Grande, John Legend, Jason Derulo, BTS, Kanye West, Trey Songz, and Drake. Okay, so that's just a rundown of some of the high-profile artists that he's contributed writing and or producing for. And they say the aforesaid contributions by plaintiff reinforce the egregious nature of the defendant's conduct in failing to acknowledge plaintiff's rightful authorship in the works and defendant's unwillingness to compensate plaintiff in accordance with his contribution to the works and the overall music and entertainment industries. Okay, now once I was able to read through this, I could give y'all the kind of TLDR thing. So after Khloe's album was released. When was the album actually released? So her album was actually released on August 9th. On August 8th, they reached out, and said, hey, there's a couple songs on that album that have not been taken care of properly. We represent the writer who actually composed those lyrics and the melodies, but y'all have not clued us in on this, right? August 9th, the album was released to the public, and they also filed the copyright registrations for the songs on the album that day as well. So they were informed the day before of what Forrest had done, and they ignored him, right? Now, I'm not stating this to throw Khloe under the bus. It's really an issue with her labels and partners because they're the ones that handle this stuff, not her specifically. Forrest and his team were ignored, right? So then, come January 6th, I believe it was, Forrest and his team reached back out to Khloe Bailey and team and said, hey, we would like to issue a DMCA notice, cease and desist. Y'all need to take those songs down. We've been trying to work with y'all. We've been trying to talk to y'all. Y'all are ignoring us. We've got email chains. Y'all have sent Forrest to go interact with the producer of the song and his lawyer, right? In the lawsuit, they also get into Khloe's lawyer, who also represents Columbia Records, by the name of, what is this dude's name? Jeremy Moore. And Jeremy Moore basically reached back out and said, I do not need your permission to exploit these songs because we already have the producer who signed off. Now, I could tell y'all that's not how it's supposed to work. Because in any situation, if you've got multiple contributors to a record, in order for that one person, if you got 3 people, or even reduce it down to 2, if me and another person create a song, that person produced it, I wrote it, and we want to go exploit the music, or we want to take it to a label or take it to a company to put it out, that company is going to need both parties, me and the producer, to either show them documentation that says I have the right to speak on behalf of both of us, or that company is going to send me and the producer documentation for us to sign off on so that they can move forward with the exploitation of said music. However, in this situation, the producer Bongo went to them with the songs for Khloe. Khloe liked it. She heard it. She went in the studio. She laid them down. She took them to the label, and everything was done with Bongo excluding Forrest from the entire process. And they basically said, well, Bongo spoke on your behalf and said everything is good, which is not the legal precedent of how this works, right? We recently talked about a young lady that was suing Travis Scott for the same thing because she had did some work with Kanye. Kanye ended up not using it ultimately. I guess he let Travis Scott have it, but Travis Scott and his team never consulted with her about the sampling that she produced and the stuff that she made for Kanye that ended up on Travis Scott's album. And she made it during Kanye's gospel era, and he turned it into something more vulgar, which she didn't agree with, right? So these are types of things that happen in the music industry, and it could get a little sticky. I personally do think that Forrest has a strong case. I think that the paperwork that they have, unfortunately, like I said, I read through that whole shit on mute. That was like a 40-minute video. Now we're like at 15 minutes so far. I'm not rereading that shit. I'm sorry. But I like Khloe. I think she's extremely talented, but I think that her and her labels are going to lose. The only way that I see them not losing is if they just drain Forrest and his team of their resources to where he's backed into submission to where he can't continue to pay for whatever legal, filings and things that are necessary within the courts. So they could drain him of his resources in that way and like kind of force him to be like, hey, can we at least come to a settlement or something? I'm willing to settle outside of court or something of that effect. But they know he wrote them songs. He's even credited on one of the songs that was taken, right? But he's not being paid for the song, which is interesting. Trying to give y'all like some more details here. There was a 200-day process in which they tried to negotiate equitable terms for Forrest to be paid. And once that 200-day time period lapsed, the attorney, Jeremy Moore, came back to the table and basically said SMD. Okay. So Jeremy Moore is pretty much the primary party that's been holding this situation up, because there were some agreements and negotiations that took place. Jeremy Moore came back into the scene and said, no, I'm not signing off on this. Nope. SMD. Okay. Trying to think of anything else of importance that was in this. The infringible acts include unauthorized public performance, streaming and digital sales on platforms including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and Tidal, use of plaintiff's work in music videos monetized via YouTube and other video sharing platforms, use of plaintiff's work in advertising, promotions, and merchandise sales, social media monetization through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, using the disputed works to generate engagement and financial revenue. So they want to get a good look at all of those platforms that included the songs, all the posts that she's used, including the songs, all the promotion she's done, any licensing that happened in TV, film, etc. They want to see the money that she's made off the music videos, including their song. She wants to see the streaming revenue from the song. She wants to see the sales from your iTunes, your Amazons. They want to see the vinyl sales. They want to see anywhere that these 3 songs were sold. They want to see how much money was made, and they want a portion of it, right? And again, for each infringement that they see, they want $150,000 for each one. But again, I think once this thing goes through, I don't see this being no major payout because, again, the Trouble in Paradise album didn't generate a whole lot of money for Khloe anyway. Not to mention the fact the label didn't even give her the resources to tour this album. Right? So this is overall just a unfortunate situation because he deserves to be compensated. But because this project didn't really take off like that, I don't think he's going to get very much on the back end. I think he may get a percentage of future profits. I think he will get clued in on the publishing. And I think he will get a lump sum, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere near $5 million per track. I don't think he's going to get $200,000 in a lump sum. I think over time he may get that based upon pub royalties though. So it's just a fucked up situation and a very avoidable situation if his producer would have just called and told him, hey bro, I'm in the studio with Khloe. She's fucking with the song. I played her the songs we worked on. She's fucking with this stuff, man. Why don't you come out, next session that we have, we could just let's just set up a meeting, get you clued in and we could start talking to her immediate circle, her management and figure out what it takes to get this. Because clearly Bongo is taken care of. Bongo, as a producer, is all over this album. So it should have been nothing for him to call Forrest up and say, hey, bro, this is the situation I got going on. I played these records for Khloe. Everything is good. She wants to use this as a single. This one is she's emotionally connected to. Let's get clued in. Let's get these percentages ironed out. They could have did that shit. She let people know that Trouble in Paradise was coming almost a year ahead of time. Right? I even played snippets of the music that she was working on this very channel and was like, yo, I like what she's working on. But I'm still trying to figure out how Homeboy got lost in translation where they didn't feel like he needed to be brought in. That's crazy. So it's unfortunate. It sucks. I wish him the best, but I don't see this being a very lucrative situation for him. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, become an insider. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rag. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef on computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. With drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they doubted me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.